I was watching my numbers on Amazon and yep, the corporate Christmas season is well underway. And it's times like this that I kind of have to admit to my role in all of that, something that just seems to come along with this type of channel, it seems. And sometimes you kind of need a palate cleanser. So that's exactly what this is. This is your seasonal reminder that you are probably good with the gear you have. Here are 5 separate artists that have done something absolutely amazing with cheap gear, and in our first, actually free gear. Steve Lacy is the epitome of this list, basically making a career out of creating music on the cheap. He kicked off his music career as a producer for the internet, helping out with their 3rd studio album, Ego Death. By the way, getting a Grammy nom for that production. He worked for a bunch of big names as a producer as well, including 2088, Denzel Curry, Isaiah Rashad, and Kendrick Lamar. And that's where we pick up this story. You see, Lacy worked on Lamar's 2017 album, Damn, which garnered him another Grammy nomination, which is impressive considering the work on that, as well as the work he did for Ego Death, was partially done in GarageBand. And not just desktop GarageBand. No, this was the app on the iPhone and iPad, meaning that one of the #1 songs of 2017 was partially developed in a free-to-use software on a mobile device. Now, of course, this is cool, but this is something that Lacy has been doing for quite some time. And when he released his first EP of his own music called Steve Lacy's Demo, it was fully recorded on his iPhone, including his vocals, which were recorded into the built-in mic of the phone. And it wasn't until 2018 that he started producing more music on other platforms than his phone. Not too shabby when you consider. Perhaps you don't need that new, really expensive DAW. Speaking of using GarageBand for massive songs, how about this one? Umbrella by Rihanna has won 8 awards after receiving 22 nominations. It hit #1 in 23 different countries. It went 10 times platinum in the US, and around the world it picked up a few extra precious metals, pressed into albums as well. And the song was listed as number 332 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time list in 2021. So I guess you can say the song did okay. Now, what is so special about this song is that not only did the producers use GarageBand for it, they actually featured the stock drum sample plugin, and no, I'm not kidding you. Go ahead, open your GarageBand and search for Vintage Funk Kit 03. Considering the thousands upon tens of thousands of dollars that producers spend on plugins, especially instrument and drum plugins, the idea that this song includes a stock plugin from a free DAW is kind of flabbergasting. And if there is anything that can make you appreciate how much you have at the stock level, it should be this. Next up, we're moving over to Jack White and the White Stripes. Now, he has been known to make music with archaic analog equipment, but Jack doesn't just like analog. He also likes obscure instruments that might add extra texture to his music, which is why he likes using the 1964 Montgomery Ward JB Hutto airline guitar. That's a mouthful. It's a hollow fiberglass body with a solid metal neck, which, by the way, translates into a super cheap guitar. Now, exactly how cheap is that? It's about 99 bucks. And to be fair, 99 bucks back then is about 850 in today's money. Though, while inflation has really marched on, the build quality of his favorite guitar has not. Let's be perfectly clear. If it wasn't for Jack White promoting this guitar, it would be next to worthless. But that's not the fact. And if you want to get your hands on one of these bad boys, well, prices have been steadily going up over the years as collectors snatch them up. But that isn't the only pedestrian instrument in White's locker. He also uses a Crestwood Astral II from the 70s, another obscure and somewhat cheap guitar. In fact, these were considered junk shop guitars or pawnbrokers guitars. And finally, his slide guitar, which he used on songs such as Seven Nation Army, was a budget K archtop from the 60s. Now, K did make some better instruments, but this archtop was not one of them. Again, dude has done a lot with a very little, something that should make you feel okay about your meager instrument collection. Now, we all know this story, or at least to some degree, but in this scenario, I'd say it bears repeating. Billie Eilish's first album was a bedroom album. There's no secret in that. In fact, their second album was much the same. and had less intervention from the big studios as the first album. They sat on their brother's bed and recorded the vocals. Now, granted, their brother Finneas is a fantastic producer, more proof that being a bedroom producer is nothing to shake a stick at, though his setup is rather common in comparison to some of the big studios. He used Logic Pro X with a Universal Audio Apollo 8, and he had a couple Yamaha HS5s. Nothing really crazy. But the big surprise is that he got Billie to use an Audio-Technica AT2020 for their vocals for several of the songs. That's a $99 microphone. Now, they did move up to a TLM-103 in later recordings, which is a much more common sight in bigger studios, but still. Hearing that Billie Eilish started their career as a singer with an AT2020 and acquiring a rather large level of success should tell you two things. Your mic is probably fine for the stage your career is in. And two, you should make friends with producers. And someday, the two of you might be as big as Billie. And what would be any list without Dolly Parton, right? Probably the most recognizable face in country music and, well, music in general. She's also an actress, philanthropist, and her net worth sits around $350 million. Let's just say she's set up. So why does she show up to perform at her own Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony with a guitar that's worth less than $100? Now, the guitar in question is a rather underwhelming Mitchell MM100, though the personally added rhinestones might drive up the value a bit. It is a tiny guitar to say the least, and honestly, if you didn't know guitars, you probably wouldn't have picked up on how cheap it is. And that's not the only cheap guitar she's known to rock. She also likes to pull out her bedazzled Samick Greg Bennett Malibu Series Strat style guitar, which goes for, wait for it, a staggering $85. Again, a great example of incredible music done on very attainable gear. So then, what should you take from all this as we plow through this holiday season? Well, what you already have is probably enough. It should also tell you that the quality of your audio will have more to do with what you put into it than what your gear does. The gear you have now is not what's holding you back. And if you produce the right product that people want to hear, they'll hear it. So while we all scramble to jump on those deals that are out there and open our wallets wide for the next big thing, maybe take a step back first and ask yourself if you actually need what you're about to buy. Will it make you better or allow you to create better? Probably not. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next video.